This computer. Okay, cool. I think we can get started here. So just going to tell everyone in the live chat and then we're off to it. Everybody, I'm Andrew Brown. I'm the CEO of Exam Pro. I've been a developer for the last 12 years. Today is July 30th, 2019. And today we're talking about hacks to improve your LinkedIn profile for developers. There's a lot of different job titles out there for developers, and knowing what you want and how to narrow that focus into your profile is going to help you improve your job opportunities or land your first developer role. So, just think what you want your title to be, and that will shape the rest of your profile and what you should fill out in it. So just to get started, this talk is broken up into two parts. The first part, I'm going to show you new LinkedIn tips. So I published 2 articles previously. Did anyone have a chance to read those or see those? Cool. So I like to always try to bring you new content. I would suggest to reach up there because that's the more basic starting point there. They are published on DevTO, not to be confused with Dev Toronto. So it's dev.to, and you can go read those 2 articles. And the second part will be real profiles. So I have like a collection of 40 profiles that developers have given me internationally, where I can use to show like how to improve your LinkedIn profile. And so that's what we'll do here. Okay, and just to reiterate again, if you haven't checked out those articles, like I went and made full like LinkedIn mockups to actually show you how to make improvements. So it's definitely worth checking out those previous articles I wrote. So the first thing I want to show you is how to improve your about page, your about box. So a lot of times I'll see an about box and it's filled with everything under the sun where it just overflows. And when someone's really looking at your profile, they just don't have time to read in that box, or the information that you put in that about box isn't relevant to that information. So, if you're in the habit of putting, every type of language you've used, work experience, that stuff should really be divided up into your experience section. And if you always take into account that people are looking at it like within 1 or 2 seconds, they're not going to remember all that information. So you have to really condense what you want people to remember. So for me, I want people to know that I was previously a CTO of multiple startups. I'm AWS obsessed. And then I always like to put a personal flair in there. So I always tell people I like Star Trek or coconut water, so they have an opportunity to have a soft introduction to me. So I always suggest that you should leverage the media boxes. So if you don't have media boxes down below, that's the best place to link your PDF, your GitHub account, your personal personal website. I would have a personal website if my name wasn't so common. So I don't know if you know about like the .dev domain, which came out, 3 months ago. It's a really good looking domain to get for your personal website. And I would get andrewbrown.dev, but it's already taken. And the alternative for me is Andrew W.C. Brown, because my middle name is William Charles, but since I used to live in Europe, WC stands for water closet. So so I'm still trying to decide, right? Do I have the full name or whatever? But, like when recruiters or employers are coming in, the first thing they want to check is GitHub, personal website, PDF resume. And I have to really emphasize PDF, not docx, because there can be some display issues just within LinkedIn on different platforms on viewing it. So really, really make it a PDF. It'll make things a lot easier. And another really good way to get an introduction to people is to actually make some video content where you are on screen or showing something technical, right? So that's your greatest opportunity to show off your skills. A lot of times I see people, they'll post their PDF, their link to the resume, their personal profile, their GitHub, it'll be under the fold, and most people aren't going to click into that fold to grab that information. So, just consider you really want that to be extremely condensed, okay? So I don't know if anyone's ever seen Field of Dreams, the movie. It's a really good movie. You should go check it out. It has a really good Rotten Tomatoes score. It has a very famous line, if you build it, they will come. So I say, if you post it, they will come. So if you want a job in X, you should be posting content for X, right? So I'm really into cybersecurity, and I'm always posting cheat sheets or slides that I've done, or I just reshare content. And I'll just show that in the next slide here. So the thing is that if you aren't a content creator, like it's very hard for you to make original content, you don't have time, then at the very least you can share content. So like one feed I follow is the Cybersecurity Hub, and they have this, it's not really related to security, but it was just a really cool one where they show the full stack represented as a hamburger on the right-hand side. And you can see just me sharing content has more views than me actually producing new content. But I just like making content, so I do that. So the reason why you want to do this is that if you continuously share this content, you're going to get other people that are interested that will either want to follow or connect you. So I get a lot of people in the cybersecurity space that are just connecting with me. And as they get to know more about you, that's where you're going to see more opportunities, right? And it could be a way for you to also just get like a recommendation or collaboration. And so I just feel that a lot of people overlook LinkedIn, or they feel like it's quite laborious. But I would just say go out there, find people that are already like Cybersecurity Hub or famous people, see what they have and reshare it and put your 2 cents there. That's going to really help you out a lot. Okay. Skills and endorsements. Skills is probably the most important thing on LinkedIn because it really helps you define what your profile will be like. And it's usually based on your title, your stack, and everything. So in LinkedIn, you only have 3 top skills. You have a lot of skills you can choose from, but there's only 3 that you get to really highlight. Okay, and so a lot of times I'll see people list HTML, JavaScript, or CSS in their top skills. It's because at some point they made a profile and it ended up on there, and some people endorsed them, they didn't change it. But you know what happens when I see HTML, JavaScript, and CSS in your top 3 skills? It's like saying you drink water and breathe air as a developer. It doesn't tell me anything about you. In fact, it might indicate that you're inexperienced because you're not highlighting stronger skills. The industry in the last 2-3 years has really changed, and so I always emphasize try to put on a cloud computing platform, AWS, GCP, Azure, IBM, which is not as used as much. If you're using Heroku or Linoid or DigitalOcean, those work as well too. But like as a full stack developer, if that's the role you're after, you know, most experienced senior developers, a good mark of them is they not only know how to build an app, they can know how to deploy it. And how do you prove that you deploy it? You show that you know how to use a cloud computing service. And so now we see the burger again. And so that burger is actually a really good way of deciding the composition of those 3 top skills to really define what a good, like a rich profile looks like, right? So I would say that you look at that burger and you pick out 3 things from that stack, and that will show that you have in-depth knowledge of whatever that job title might be. So on the bottom, you can see that they have a lot of cloud computing stuff. So AWS, Azure, Google. In the middle layer, we have languages. Then we have databases. And the top, then we kind of have like the front end or frameworks. So when we come back to this here, right? So the thing is, you might want to put in here, you might want to say, well, I'm really good with Ruby. And then I would follow with, I'm good with Ruby on Rails. That's kind of redundant because if you're good with Ruby on Rails, we already know you have proficient Ruby skills and you've wasted one of your top 3 slots. Or if you are a front-end developer and you say you're good with Django or you're good with Flask, that also implies you're good with Python. So you don't want to waste that spot unless your job is like, if you are a pure data scientist, you're not working with front-end stuff, then you might want to emphasize it. So it's not a hard rule, but you do really want to try to pack in and show you know, that you have in-depth knowledge on a particular stack. This is the thing that's really hard, is that everybody wants to list everything in their profile because they might not have a job or they don't want to leave an opportunity closed, because if they say, well, I only do Python, now there's a Ruby job, I can't have it. But you know, I just think that if you aren't sharp enough with your messaging, you're gonna be going to 10, 20, 30 interviews before you get a job. Whereas if you're hyper-focused, yes, there's fewer jobs in this specific field, but you're more likely to convert to actually getting a job. So, because at the end of the day, like, these companies want to hire people that understand their stack, going to have less ramp-up time. So having in-depth detailed knowledge is really going to help you there. And so I have a few examples down here of some different kind of stacks. So So I would just say like you keep a web framework, database, and cloud computing. That's one good combination for full stack stuff. When it comes to data scientist jobs, you're more talking about the tooling, right? Like Pandas, SageMaker, maybe like something with big data, so maybe DynamoDB or something like that. So, but generally, this combination is pretty darn good. Okay. Another really good way of trying to show that you have in-depth knowledge is to go to StackShare. So, does anyone here know about StackShare? Cool. So StackShare, and I actually have this for Exam Pro. I haven't filled it fully out, but I actually tell you what stack we use at our company. A lot of people, like if you've been in the industry for 10, 12 years, there's companies are defined around particular tool sets that are based off the culture. So it's not necessarily that certain tools are better than others. But like if you were in the Ruby on Rails community, most people, when they started using a queuing system, they would use Sidekick. And Sidekick is Redis based, okay? And so if you had this cultural knowledge of these particular stacks, you pretty much can guess what most of these companies will have, right? And that means you will end up with a composition of skills that are going to align with that company closer, right? So, when I have a resume that comes to me and it says someone's really good with Redis, they know Rails, and they're really good with GitHub, it tells me they click with that culture, they probably have more deep knowledge or understanding of it. So what I recommend is you look into these different types of stacks from popular companies. There might be ones here in Toronto, and try to look for patterns. And so here's like a stack from Instacart. Instacart is actually in Toronto. They run the Ruby on Rails group. I haven't seen them do talk in a while, but you can see there's always a trend. So Rails developers really like using Postgres. Okay, so if you do Rails and Postgres, that's a winning combination. And Redis probably came from the Sidekick gears and stuff like that. So you can generally see that composition. So if you really don't know what to pick out, but you're like, yeah, I really like Python, then look into stacks that have Python and just pick out tools and talk about these tools and make sure that shows up in your experience history, right? One thing is like recruiters or employers look at your page, like your experience, and you just have skills all over the place, but really your skills should be across something that's cohesive, because when you move from job to job, you want to be near a certain stack, because that's going to make it easier for you to get hired. So there's that. Endorsements. So endorsements is when someone says, hey, you're good at this. So here's a fellow in my network, he has 99 plus, which is after 99, they don't show it. And so do endorsements really matter? Because everyone says, does it matter? Do I need to have lots? And I say, not really. So you either want to have one or at least 99 plus, okay? The reason why you want to have 99 plus is that if you are like an influencer like me, it looks good, right? But for everybody else, you just want to have at least one. And the reason why is that when recruiters are using the system, because there's different type of LinkedIn accounts, they have to filter candidates really easily, right? And so one of the mechanisms that LinkedIn gives them is to filter based on top skills. So if you have at least one endorsement, now you check that box. So you can see this job here, and you'd have to have paid to see that stuff, but you see like cloud computing and all that stuff. If you just got your buddies or your previous work to checkbox all those things and see which ones are there, recruiters are more likely going to say, this candidate is aligned to this job, okay? So, that's something that you might want to consider. And once again, that's just, you only need one in that category, okay? If you want to play that game and go down that route. To me, this is all superficial stuff, but some recruiters and employers take the tooling of LinkedIn very seriously. And it's hard to say who does and who doesn't, right? Turn on career interests. So there's a feature in LinkedIn called career interests, and it tells you whether you are looking for opportunities or not. A lot of people, what they'll do is they'll say, I'm looking for opportunities right in their headline. I don't recommend doing that because it just kind of looks desperate, right? So there's a more implicit way, a more direct way, a way that recruiters are using, which is the career interest mode. And I'm just going to show you the features of it. So you turn it on, and look, you literally can write to recruiters what they want to know. Recruiters always just want the facts, right? How many years, React Redux, whatever. So you get to broadcast that straight out to recruiters, and recruiters, they really use the system and take it seriously. So if they see that you're using the system, they're going to probably think you're pretty sharp, okay? So this is the way you want to show looking for opportunity, right? You don't want to be posting it all over your page. It makes no sense. You can see, you can set your status, and then you can also narrow down. So like I say, I only want Chief Technical Officer titles. Don't give me anything else. I want Toronto, I want full-time, right? You do this, and you're gonna get a lot more opportunities. This has been brought up to me multiple times, desktop versus mobile. So there's like a 50% split, I think, on the utilization for LinkedIn. So some people just like using their phones for LinkedIn. Some people, like I like desktop, but I know a lot of people like the phone experience. The phone experience varies in a lot of ways, and one is just the banner. So everyone always tells me, hey, Andrew, you told me to make a really good banner, but your head covers it in mobile, right? And so this is the thing you have to decide whether you really want to optimize for both mobile and desktop, because if you try to make for both, like what a lot of people do is they'll put like a little thing in the top right corner, so then it shows up here, but then on here it's really small, right? So you just have to decide where your audience is more important, or if you want to invest the time to really optimize for both. For me, I don't care, but that might be a serious consideration. But just understand, like, you have to not only think about LinkedIn desktop, you have to think about LinkedIn mobile. If you are trying to make connections, like such as an event here, there is I don't know if anyone knows this, but you have a QR code functionality. Does anyone know about that functionality? It's like amazing. So like I was at Reinforce, which was last month. It was AWS's first security conference. And when I want to connect with people, I say, do you have a LinkedIn? They say yes. And I tell them to pull up their phone and pull up the QR code. And then I scan or they scan my thing. And the cool part about it is that it instantly connects. There's no like pending or waiting. So if you meet with someone and they're like, you know, they might be hesitant to connect with you, they might leave you in pending. But if you use the QR code, you're in the door, okay? So also just some people forget or whatever. Some people are more popular. Like I have a lot of people in my pending. For me, it takes a long time to get back to people. So this is a little trick that you can do, and it instantly connects, and you're not going to have problems later. You can also download your QR code and share it. I've never done that, but maybe it's a good idea. There's another really cool mode if you're at a conference or at an event such as this called, I don't know what it's called, but it's Find Nearby. Like, I don't know its proper name. So this is kind of like, I've never used it because I was already at the dating scene, but I guess it's kind of like Tinder, where you'll have to tell me if this is true or not, but like Tinder can tell you who's nearby. That sounds bizarre for a dating app. I don't want a dating app telling me who's nearby. That sounds strange. But anyway, so you turn this mode on, and then another person turns this mode on at a conference, and then it shows all the connections, because those are people that really want to connect. So you know, people that are really serious about LinkedIn, you go to a big conference and turn it on, you'll make a lot of friends quickly. However, they do have to accept. So it's not instantaneous, but you know, at an event, if you're ever in a round circle and everyone's talking about connecting, tell them to whip out their phones and go to this mode, and you will not lose your connections. Another interesting feature in mobile is voice messages. Has anyone ever used this before? So you can send someone a voice recording, and this is kind of a bit of a gamble because some people might not enjoy this experience, but if you were to investigate that person's feed and see if they're like a cool dude or gal or whatever, they might appreciate the creativity of you sending a voice message. Also gives you an opportunity to show off your speaking skills or your personality. So that's what you really want to do. You want to hack by getting the job, by getting them to, because a lot of times like jobs they want to keep you arm's length, but you want to try to get in there and become personable and get them to like you so you can get a job. And so that might be one mechanism of doing that. Just consider that if you aren't a native English speaker, this could be quite the gamble. So you know, just make a decision on that, whether you want to utilize this feature. Well, let's talk about LinkedIn Premium. So I pay for LinkedIn Premium, and everybody asks me, is it worth it? And I say yes, but only if you have your profile filled out, okay? So I see people buy and they think they're gonna get a job tomorrow, and then there's nothing going on better for them. And you can see if someone has this little badge, that means they're paying for LinkedIn, okay? And so let's talk about a few of the features of LinkedIn here. It seemed like I skipped a slide there. So when you get the premium LinkedIn, you get 5 in-mails per month. That's a way of being able to send messages that aren't within your network, and I'll show you that in a moment. You get to see who's viewed your profile. This kind of is useful. If you are very serious about making connections, then you might want that. the thing I really like is that it actually shows you everyone you've connected with. So like, let's say you are trying to build up to get like 500 people or something, and some people are accepting and some people aren't. In Basic, it's hard to go back and audit that list, where in Premium, it makes it a lot easier. So you can see whether you're sending out too many requests. This is important because you can't just send out lots of requests. LinkedIn caps it at, I think, 2,000. So once you've sent out 2,000 requests, whether accepted or not, you can't send out any more. And the only way to get more connections is people have to add you. So, you know, if your strategy is doing that, then that's an issue. And I think there's like 20 or 30K you can have in total on your profile. I can't remember if those numbers are right, but I think it's something like that. If you pay for Premium, you do get the LinkedIn Learning course. So there used to be a company called lynda.com, and then LinkedIn acquired it. And so when you buy into that, you get course content. They actually have they have AWS content on there and a variety of different stuff. It's a varying content. I think they asked me to make content for that, so I might one day, but it's okay. The biggest thing is open profile. So allows other LinkedIn users to message you at no cost. So if you're a third party, it's more important for like if you're an influencer. So if somebody wants to message me, but they're third party, the only way they'd be able to talk to me is add me, or they'd have to send me an in-mail message. With paid, now they have the ability to just directly message. It means like anyone's allowed to message me. So let's take a look at InMail. So here's an InMail, and I was just wasting some of my InMail credits yesterday, and I actually reached out to Gary Vaynerchuk, and I know Gary V, it's a big deal on the internet, and Jeff Barr, he's the chief evangelist of AWS. So Gary's a lot easier to reach because he has paid LinkedIn, and he has open profile. So you can message him, it doesn't cost you anything. But Jeff Barr, he's not as open. But because I pay for Premium, I can use an email and I can send them whatever I want. And I think I can keep on just sending them things. So, but I don't know. I was really hard. I was trying to find like really interesting celebrities, but like all like celebrity stars aren't on there. I did find like Snoop Dogg, but I don't think it was the real Snoop Dogg. So, this is a nice feature. In LinkedIn Premium, it will produce a nice looking resume for you. I like it. So I generated it out and attached it to my profile as an example. But yeah, it just looks nice. In LinkedIn Premium, there's salary insights. So I'm just gonna check on time because I'm not even halfway. Yeah, we're fine. So salary insights, if you've ever used Glassdoor, you can get insights there by contributing your salary information. If you pay for Premium, you get salary information. I find that LinkedIn's salary insights is more accurate than Glassdoor. So here we have a job at AWS for a senior solutions architect. You can say they pay a lot of money. I don't know if that's in Canada though. That might be US. Oh, it says CA, so Canadian dollars. And if we were to click actually into the Toronto market here, solutions architect, here now we're seeing more of a normal salary, so 120 to 135K. I think actually if you were with AWS, it probably would be higher, but like these are more generalized jobs, so like Scotiabank or whatever, TELUS. And what I really like is you can search any kind of title. So here we got full stack engineer salaries, and so it shows you the medians of different salaries in Toronto, and we can see all the companies, right? Scotiabank, RBC, FreshBooks, CoinSquare, all sorts of stuff. So the cost of LinkedIn Premium, because this can be a big problem for a lot of people. Is Premium expensive? Yes. But the great thing is that if you've never used it before, you just put in your credit card and you get a free month's trial, and then you can immediately cancel. So you don't forget, right, that they're going to bill you. And they'll honor the trial to the end, right? They'll say, oh, well, you canceled, but you still got the features till the end of the month. And so that's a really good opportunity for you to try it out. And I really like coconut water, so I figured to try to like understand how expensive it is to show you how much coconut water you can buy in a month. So I don't know. One really big suggestion I have for people is, like, I'm a native English speaker and I use Grammarly, okay? So I really strongly recommend that you run your text or copy through Grammarly. Grammarly is free for spelling and for grammar errors. So that is a strong recommendation. Grammarly, there's also a paid version, which I use. I love it. So here I took the first paragraph out of Moby Dick just to see what Grammarly thought about this book. And it can tell you that this book is hard to read. So Grammarly, when you have the paid version, it can do more writing styles, and it allows you to narrow down based on like the audience and stuff. And so I find it really good to help you make sure that your stuff is really, really readable. It costs $11.66 per month. I think I paid for the year and I forgot about it, which is good. So I use that for everything. I know there's like a lot of ads on it, and I don't have like a, you know, Andrew Brown Grammarly. I probably should, but I do strongly recommend it. So now that was the first part. Let's move on to the second part. So real LinkedIn profiles, and these were generously, people who generously consented. That was probably not ran through Grammarly, but anyway, there's people that said, "Hey Andrew, you can use our profiles and help other people learn how to, you know, get better jobs." So let's thank them, and now let's go be critical. So here we have Alan, and he was previously a mechanical engineer, and so he's transitioning into a data scientist. And so here we can look at the profile, and he has a pretty good looking photo. So I'd say that's a very professional photo. A lot of times I will see photos that are black and white. Black and white's not a good photo to have because it looks like an obituary. So I suggest not to do that. Another suggestion is don't have a photo that is dead on, because that looks like a mugshot. Okay, so another thing is, what I say about profile photos is you want to have it high resolution, because if you don't have it high resolution, you get like those pixel artifacts. And you know what it looks like? It looks like it's scanned out of a book. So it's like you've stolen someone's identity out of a yearbook. So, you know, have a high resolution image, make sure it's 3/4. If you have good teeth, smile. Like I don't smile in my photo because I have terrible teeth. People always ask like, Andrew, why don't you smile? It's like, because I need to go to the dentist. But, you know, suggestions for that. But looking at the about description, the descriptions is good. I would probably condense it further, just because, you know, at a glance we're losing information. So there's PyTorch, TensorFlow, mechanical engineer to software developer. So I would probably, you know, reduce this by 1/3, 1/4. There's no banner image. That is your place to shine, to really make an impact and to impress on people's mind what it is. So if it was me, I'd have some something with AI or something there. He has 500 connections, which is really good. But look, he has no media. So how do I get his resume? You know, does he have a personal website? Does he have a GitHub page? The biggest red flag for me is no activity feeds. You can turn this off in LinkedIn, but like the activity feed is to show how active somebody is within their field. And so as I was saying earlier, if you were to create lots of content, that's the first thing where I'm going to look when I'm investigating people. So in my feed, I tell people I like coconut water, and when I go to talks, they'll show up sometimes with coconut water. People offer to take me out for coconut water because I have it in my feed, right? So that's your place to put content. Going into the second part here, we have under experience. So we have computer vision intern. We have a bit of strange casing here. It's not a big deal. It's superficial. I think it's a bit more relaxed in Toronto, which is an international city. But outside of Toronto, people might be more superficial about this kind of stuff. And it wouldn't be such an issue if it was consistent, right? So down here we have project trainee, and that's at a capitalized, and this is lowercase. But again, superficial, but some people actually do care about it. The one thing I noticed is there's a gap of history between schooling. So between 2017 and 2018, I couldn't figure out what he was doing. You know, he probably was working, maybe he was a mechanical engineer. Some people when they're transitioning jobs, they don't want to list their previous work because they really want people to focus on what it is they do now. The thing is that if you're 10, 12 years and then you're becoming a developer, you want to show that you have professional working experience, because you don't want to be coming in at the graduate level. You want to be in the intermediate level right away. So showing that you have strong soft skills, even if it's not within the current industry, is great. In the skills and endorsements here, we're seeing mechanical engineering skills, and we have one MATLAB that could be for data scientists. So here, you know, I'd like to see Pandas, TensorFlow, SageMaker, you know, things that are relevant to this. Oh yeah, and certification. So we see a lot of certifications here, Coursera, Udacity, they're all related to machine learning AI. So this is, when I see someone that's like 10 years in and they're doing self-learning, and they're learning up really quick, that looks really good. If there was one big thing I think that would make a big career change for this fellow here would be to get the ABA certification Big Data ML. The reason I say that is because Toronto is an AI hub, because I believe the person who invented like deep learning, he teaches at U of T, and so like all international talent comes here for that. So this one in particular is just really good in the Toronto market. So if you ever wanted to learn up quickly, there's like a boot camp that specializes in like getting you to do certs or data scientists or cloud data. So that's one there. If we take a look at our second profile here, we have an Android developer. And he really makes it clear because in his background or his banner image, we see Apple and Android, right? We have the Android icon. So it's very clear what he does, and his title is Android developer. There's no confusion, and he even reinforces it with a really nice little emoji robot, right? So I think that's a really good reinforcement and messaging, so it's very clear what he does. He does need to work on his connections. Everyone, you should have 500 plus connections. There's no reason not to, because the larger your network, the more opportunities you're going to have. Down below, you can see where it says I do speak and write. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, you want to avoid the overflow, right? So he actually has a lot of stuff under there, and like his profiles, everything. But most people are going to come in class and see I do speak and write. So they're going to think that he might not be a good native English speaker, which is interesting because he put a lot of focus to say, I can speak really good English. He has like Duolingo certs and ESL certs, and he emphasizes it, and then, it's busted just because of this one line here. So, that looks good. But again, I can't see his GitHub page, his personal page and stuff. And it is in the drop down, but, not everyone's going to go digging. He has an activity feed. Everything that's on there looks really good and positive. So that's great. He has certifications. He holds a GCP cert. That's really, really good to have. However, he has a lot of certs that aren't accredited. I mean, like, they're accredited by Duolingo, but they're not recognized by the industry of mattering. And so you might have a really good certification, but it's getting buried by these ones. So I don't recommend putting these certs in here. I recommend if you have an achievement, put it in your feed. Make that there, and people can scroll through there, and leave the real certs in here. For the other case for the data scientists, because there aren't, other than the AWS Big Data ML certs, it was okay, and Coursera is more accredited. But if you don't have anything, put them in here. But once you do, then you might want to pull them out. No gaps in history. Good amount of time between each job, so it's not like a rotating door. Needs the right experience. So this is the thing. I either see too much in here, or the information, like, experience is just all over the place, or there's no information. So this is an opportunity to reinforce the detailed stacks. Remember, we looked at like a technical stack. You look at Android stack, and you put in that stuff, and you make sure that you have it there, so people have deep knowledge. So here's our third profile, our last profile for today. We have the profile photo is good. And so here we have a very long description. This is what I'm talking about that I suggest not to do. And the biggest thing I always say is don't say you do everything, because now we don't know what to hire you for. Okay, so we see many languages, frameworks, development processes, Ruby, Java, everything, right? And this is the big problem, is that if you're 10, 12 years in your career, everybody says, well, I do everything, but you just have to narrow it down because it's just too confusing. We have a really good banner image. It really makes it clear what her skills are, though it says looking for a remote position in your banner. Again, you want to use career interests to tell people that you are looking for work. There's a lot of different titles here. So I see full stack developer, then I see front-end developer, then I see UX, then I see UX mentor, and I see business focused developer, okay? And then I'm looking for work. So this is the problem, is like, what does this person want to do? And this person clearly is really, like, if you're really good and you're really talented, people understand that you can shift other jobs, but it's really hard for, it's like you ever had a really big menu and you just walk away because you can't decide. That's me. Like, I won't order at a place where it's too hard of a choice. So you have to really narrow that stuff down. So here they're self-employed, and I don't know if this one is also like a new company that she may have spun up, but when I see these gray boxes, it can mean fake information, right? And it's not that it's necessarily fake, it's just like you have the ability to make a LinkedIn company page and fill in that image and then fill in the link to validate that it's real. So, you know, go ahead and do that. Some workplaces, they make a LinkedIn page and never fill it in, so you might have to bug them for it. But, you know, I strongly recommend doing that. In the case of self-employed, I always suggest to brand yourself as a company because it always sounds better. So if you can think of a company name, it's better to be an entrepreneur than someone between jobs. And she does have accreditation from a boot camp, which is General Assembly. So that looks good. She's from the States, so I don't believe Lighthouse Labs is in the States yet, but in Canada, they're a bigger deal. So like in the Toronto market, you know, if you are thinking about taking a boot camp, just think about like what is the most trusted, right? So General Assembly is international, they're everywhere, but Lighthouse Labs is more attuned to the Toronto market, to the Vancouver market. So if you're looking to take a boot camp, you know, and you want to have a better outcome, I would recommend doing Lighthouse Labs for the full stack stuff. You guys have DevOps now?
We have a partnership with Microsoft where we're putting on free DevOps workshops across Canada in August to October.
Cool, that's amazing. Go Microsoft. I really like VS Code. Really good. Yeah, I really like VS Code. So that's the end of my talk. Before we get to questions, I just want to tell you to come to my other event. So on the 9th, is it the 9th? Yeah, on the 9th, I run the Solutions Architect Toronto user group. If you're not familiar with Solutions Architect, it's like a general title. It's like the full stack developer for cloud. And so I'm doing a talk on how to build your own event tracking and analytics system on AWS. So we use DynamoDB, Kinesis Stream, Athena, so that's really cool. Then we have Mike, who's presenting from AWS Startups. He's a big deal, and he's doing it on modern service discovery, which it's like when you have a lot of different cloud computing resources, like maybe using microservices or traditional deployment or serverless. It's a way of setting up like a backbone for them all to talk to each other. So there's not a lot of people that have much knowledge on that, so it's really exciting for him to come out to that event. It's also really good to come out there. I actually was going to have a list of jobs printed out today because I know a lot of companies that are hiring, but they don't like to post stuff online. And so I didn't have time to assemble a list, but if you come to this event, I will have a really nice printout then, and that's at WeCloud Data at Florham Bay. So we'll move on to questions here. And if everyone's still with us, we've got 15 people here. Great. And if anybody wants to ask questions, go ahead and ask questions. I'll answer anything you want. Anything. Or we can talk about Star Trek. It's up to you. So my last talk I did was I took a gamble and I themed it all Star Trek, and it didn't work out. Like the talk was really good, but like nobody came after me and was like, yeah, I love Star Trek. I was hoping for that. So I need to do like market research and like be more aligned, maybe like Game of Thrones or like I don't know what's popular right now. So, well, I guess like people didn't really like the end of Game of Thrones, so maybe not, you know? So, I don't know, any questions? Anything?
If a person is full stack developer and sometimes the skill sets are too many, what do we specifically look for specific technologies to put in that skills?
So is the concern, it's just like there's full stack, but there's all variations of it, and how do you narrow it down?
There are too many skills there.
Yeah, you just got to highlight what's the most important stuff. So like, again, if it's, you're a full stack developer, but you, like in the Toronto market, there's, I would say that the big split is Python, like Python, Django, Rails, and Express.js, right? So you say, what is the one of the three that you want to do? So what's the one you want to do? Okay, so great. So if I hear JavaScript, then I think Express.js, right? So you look for Express.js. What is Express normally used with startups? I don't recommend it, but that's what they all use. MongoDB. So I want to see Express.js, MongoDB. If you're going to be doing, you want to do front end? Would you, sorry, full stack or front end? Which would you prefer?
I prefer usually back end, but the profile is full stack.
Okay, so gotcha. So gotcha. So the most popular thing in Toronto is React, right? So I would not just put React, I put React Redux. So it'd be React Redux, Express.js, MongoDB. I see recruiters and they see like entry-level jobs, like after graduation. If you can show that you can do any variation of React, then you can get between 90 to 130K out of a bootcamp. But you have to understand that but those jobs I think only last for like 6 months, because right now the demand is really high. But once I think all of these startups catch up to fulfilling that React stuff, those jobs will be gone. But if you can move on those opportunities, that's a really good way to make quick cash and get good experience and have high pay. So that would probably be the path I would recommend. But what you have to prove is you have to prove that you can tackle React in any kind of stack, because React is just, it's not a framework, it's just a component of a framework. So every startup in Toronto has built their own Frankenstein around it. And so what has happened is like, they go, okay, we want to hire junior developers, right? And junior developers come in and say, yeah, I know React. And they say, well, I know React, but I don't know what this mess is around it. And so then the reaction to the market is everyone goes, okay, well, these juniors aren't working out and they can't do React. The problem's not React, is the company's doing something weird. And they go, well, we must need senior React developers, right? And now no junior developers can have senior stuff. Senior developers don't want the React jobs because they want to move and advance their career. So you don't need to be a senior developer to get those jobs. What they're really saying is we just want someone who can come in and work in our stack with minimal ramp up time, right? So if you come in someone, they say, oh, we want seniors, like, okay, but you just want someone who's experienced and do it, and you can flip that conversation and move forward, right? Because React hasn't been around long enough. No one's gonna get like 5-6 years React developer, you know? There's not that many people out there. So, you know, if that was the case, I'd go out and I would try using React Redux with TypeScript, React Redux with CoffeeScript, React Redux with JavaScript, React without, you know? And if you can prove in a portfolio of like 3-4 different things in your profile, then you must be experienced, right? And just emphasize, there's going to be no ramp up time. You'll get lots of jobs. We have a question here. Do you have any more advice on how to effectively show a pivot into software development from a different industry on your LinkedIn profile? So this again is about career transition. So I'm in something else and I want to go into this. Also here, can I use LinkedIn default oh, someone else. So hold on. Anyway, I got to say first question. So let me see here. How to effectively show a pivot into software development from a different industry on your LinkedIn profile. The strongest things about like pivoting is if you come from another industry and it's somewhat tech related, then, or even if it's not, if you're like 10, 12 years in, those soft skills help a lot, right? Because the biggest problem is like, I would prefer someone who's a junior developer that always came in on time, always did really good documentation, than a senior developer that doesn't have that support, right? Because when you think of an employer standpoint, what's the problem they always have? It's like, I'm gonna hire someone, it's gonna take 3 months to train them, and then they're gonna be gone. And whatever they do, there's gonna be no like road paved behind them. So if you're transitioning a job, it doesn't, like, you get to emphasize, well, my previous work, you know, I did good documentation, I showed up on time, and stuff like that's the stuff they want to hear, right? So to me, that's the leverage you get is your years of experience, right? That's transferable to any job. And if you enter that, then you would skip from junior to intermediate right away, right? And you get a higher pay if you can emphasize that stuff from that career transition. And there could be opportunities for you to then learn up, right? So I'm not sure if that is helpful, but I do have profile examples. I'd have to prepare them, but I have seen like transitional ones, and I probably have notes on them. So maybe I will make a post on that later, because I do get asked that frequently, like, how do I transition from X to Y? Okay, great. Can I use LinkedIn default resume generated by Save as PDF from profile in Job Apply? I would, because they look good. Also, the reason why I would use the generated out LinkedIn profile is that so like I actually, for 2 previous companies, I built out HR tools, and the HR tools, what they do is they like go and through resumes and extract information, and then they try to use machine learning to assess their knowledge. And the biggest problem is the format of most resumes, where people get too creative and then these machines can't read them. And so now they're losing job opportunities. Or there's a assisted tools for recruiters where they pipe it in there and it's just like the information that come through, so they just go, all right, ignore it. So, you know, having an extremely standardized resume is really important. And LinkedIn will give you a very standardized one. So I think it's a good idea to use that one if you don't know what to do, because those tools will optimize for that one, definitely. So, any other questions? Oh, yep.
So for junior full stack developer, is there any certificate from, let's say, AWS or Microsoft, Google that they can have that can separate themselves from others?
So it really depends on the market. So in Toronto, big data ML is really big. So if you were to hold one of those certifications, that's going to help you advance your career. The associate certifications are good. So if you see a company that uses, like, it just comes down to, like, does this company use AWS in the thing? And if you have AWS associate cert, that's going to help you convert more, right? So it's good to have, but it's not necessarily a guarantee, right? Across the board, because Toronto is still catching up. They're still trying to understand certifications. Like in Vancouver, I noticed 2.5 years ago in San Francisco, they started asking as a requirement if you hold a specific AWS certification, right? Anything that happens in San Francisco is coming here in Toronto 3-4 years in a delay, just because we're always behind. So today, nobody's asking for certifications as a requirement, but given 2-3 years, probably you'll start seeing those on resumes. So if you have them now, the way you leverage them is whether the company knows them, but you know, there's that chance where they might not be as effective. If you get the pro levels, they're really, really good, but they're really hard to get, right? So if you want to go into like big like banking jobs or wherever, you hold pros, now you're getting 150K. It doesn't matter if you're junior or senior, you just have that cert and you show that you have some experience in it, because the demand is so great right now. Okay, but at the junior level, it's a different story. So I don't know if that helps.
I even noticed when in job search, the word AWS pops up a lot.
Yes, so I would say the market is so, like the Toronto market's so dumb about certification that you could hold an associate or a CCP and they go, oh, you must know AWS. So, but in 2-3 years time, they're gonna know the difference in the different tiers and they're gonna want higher tiers. So if you do wanna try to get something really quick, you could go get the CCP, the Certified Cloud Practitioner. It's like $100 to go get. I actually have courseware on it. So if you want to get learning on that, you can go on Exam Pro. And it only takes 2 days worth of study, but you can, you know, I would say you study for it for a week and you can pass it in a week's time. The other certifications, if you're new to cloud computing, could take up to 2 months of study. But yeah, I would just say get the cheapest cert, get certified, and just say, yeah, I'm AWS certified. And that might, and as long as you put that forward in your profile, that could help you, right? What do you think about itpro.tv for prep for certifications? I've never used them, so I don't know anything about them. I know A Cloud Guru, Wiz Labs, Linux Academy, Cloud Academy, lots of the Udemy courses, but I haven't seen IT Pro TV. Interesting. How much is it possible to get a remote job for LinkedIn? How much? Okay, so like today, actually, if I brought the thing, there was a remote job for Toronto for 150K if you're AWS DevOps. In Toronto market, Canadian market, if you're a full stack developer, and it's not like a specialized skill, then you're probably looking outside of Toronto at most, if you're really, really good, $80,000 to $100,000. Okay, and like when I say 100,000, like out of like 200 to 300 jobs, there'll be like 5 that will be like 100,000 remote outside of Toronto. So, you know, I would say if you're not like a top tier developer, you're looking between 50 to 70K remote in Canada. So those are your opportunities outside of the Toronto market. So, but there are really good paying jobs remote, but only in Toronto, probably Vancouver. And the rest of it, it's like people just don't want you to have low cost of living. It drives you crazy. Because if it was me, I'd be back in Thunder Bay making whatever it is, you know, 140, and I'd be doing really well. So unfortunately, you have to be in the major cities until remote culture picks up. So specializes in training with multiple tiers, including a free tier. Oh, okay. I'll have to look into that. Again, I've never seen it, so could be good, could be something. Cool. Any other questions? Is anyone excited for the new Star Trek series? Yeah.
So, you know, some people on LinkedIn, they put their job title like full stack developer and they put pipeline, specialized in Microsoft pipeline, their website.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you recommend doing that?
I think it's like your top 3 skills, right? So I try to take those top 3 skills and put them in. I wouldn't put my website in there because there's other better places for that. But yeah, I would just say, I actually have like a formula it's one of my articles, but I would say like, you know, if you are senior, emphasize it. So like say senior full stack developer, and so then be specific. So if you're Rails, so senior Rails full stack developer, right? But if you have an additive skill, then you can do like plus or / security / education / insurtech. So that's another way to narrow it. So like I'm really into education, so I don't have it in my profile, but my company is that, and I'm not on the job market, but you know, when people look for CTO positions for me, even in Toronto, and so one of my posts was like, I was getting offers between 200, 250,000. And the reason why was that they're like, we need a CTO. They have to be really good with AWS. It has to be for an ed tech company, and they have to be really good with security. That's all me, like dead on, right? So then that opportunity was there, right? Because it was dead on for exactly what they wanted. There was nothing else. There was nothing to confuse them. They just thought this is this exact guy's focus, and that's where I got that opportunity. So that's how you have to kind of narrow that stuff down. But it's risky because people just, again, they get really worried about, like, if I'm going to have fewer job opportunities. But if you don't narrow it down, you're just not going to, no one's going to bite. So, oh, we have another one here. How do I prove myself that I am skilled without certification? I have good knowledge about Rails, but I don't have any certifications in that situation. What should I do to focus on LinkedIn profile to prove myself that I have that skill? Create tutorialized content, so you can go on Udemy, or sorry, not Udemy, but you can go on YouTube and produce a little series and put that there. You could use Canva to make like a 4-part slideshow to show off your technical skills. The way I've always, because like my background has always been Ruby on Rails. I've been using Ruby on Rails since version 0.8.6. And before, when I wanted to get a job in Rails, I actually didn't even use a profile or anything. The way I always got a job was I built out an app and gave it to them. So there was a job posting, and then I always wanted contract work, right? So there's a job posting saying, we only want employees. I say, okay, well, what I can do is I can estimate you out the cost of your project for you. So at the very least, you can then assess, you know, the cost of your project. And so then they talk to me, and I collect all the information about their app, and then I would turn around 48 hours and give them their budget, and I'd give them their app, and I'd say, here you go. And they'd say, can we hire you now? Because you already got started, right? So a really good way to get a job when you don't have any experience is to just start working for them and hand it to them. Because the worst is like people are afraid of giving things away for free. When you give them something like a whole app, they can't run it on their own. They can't maintain it on their own. They're going to have to hire you. I would say if I were to go out and do that, I'd say like if it was like out of 5, I'd say 3 would say yes, and 2 would just take the cheese. You know, like, you know, when you go to like supermarket, there's cheese. Some people are like that. But I would say the effort is lower than doing 20, 30, 40 interviews, take homes, because those can kill you, right? Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about, right? So, or a lot of times you can hack your way around those interviews. So that's why, like, I'll go to events. So like I just wanted to put on a workshop, and I was messaging like different people where I thought they wanted a workshop. And then they would say, oh, cool. So I looked at their application, and they said, well, we're hiring, do you know anyone? I said, no, but I'd be willing to do some solution architecting for you. And so then I would look at their app, and I would produce a architectural diagram with AWS, and then send it to them and say, this is the technical solution, how to solve it. And they said, oh, can we go for lunch or something? I said, great. And we go out and eat, and then there's a job opportunity. There's no take home, there's nothing, right? So once again, if you can understand what companies want and hand it to them, they're going to hire you. But that's at the startup level, right? Once you get into larger companies, you have middle managers, they don't care. They want you to go through the motions of whatever they have laid out. And they're not necessarily the best people at hiring, and they just do what they remember from university. And there's a lot of them from Waterloo, like Waterloo and U of T, and they want you to do algorithms when it makes no sense at all. Now, there's a hack to that. So have you ever heard the book called Cracking the Coding Interview? Okay. So in Toronto, if you do them, a lot of them just pull them right out of that book. Like I've gone to ones where, because I'll take if I was going to an interview, I'd bring the book to me. I will pull it open and say, here's the, because for me, I don't interview because I want a job. I interview to make sure that I understand the market. And if and when I do want a job, I can transition. So I always say like you should always be interviewing. So, but yeah, but that's just how it is. So, but yeah, we're 4 minutes till 1:30. So I don't want to take up too much of DevHub's time here. So I think we're all wrapped up here. Great, so we're all done here. For those who could not attend, I probably will make a second recording of this and publish it on YouTube. I don't know if I'll publish the second part. So I have like 40 LinkedIn profiles, and I promise to go through a lot of them and actually leave feedback and put them on YouTube, because it's really hard to understand. It's like I put these articles on, and like people say, review my thing, and I'm like, you didn't read my article. Do you know what I mean? Or something. So I still think that there's contextual information missing. So I want to like record 20 of them and put them on YouTube. But I was just kind of trying to get a feeling of like, because it is people sensitive information. Like even though they say I can use it, I just don't want to put them in a bad spot. So I'm still thinking of that process. So if I record this, I'll probably record the first half of this, put it on YouTube, and then eventually I will then put out 20. And if you go on my YouTube, you can check that out there. Cool. Well, thank you for everybody that's coming. Hopefully everyone had a good lunch, and yeah, come to my next event on the 9th. It'll be a cool event. Maybe there'll be coconut water there. Okay. Cool.